Sukkot was the first Thanksgiving. Think about it. Our ancestors reached a promised land. They reach a promised land and they come forward with offerings of gratitude. On the festival of ingathering, one of the names of Sukkot, Chag HaAsif, as Sukkot is called. And they made those offerings of produce from their harvest. At the same time, as we read in Deuteronomy, they connected with their history. They came forward with a basket of produce and they said, my father was a wandering Aramean, my people went to Egypt, they became great, they were enslaved, and then here I am, I've been redeemed. It's even a shorter history of that story. But they came forward with gratitude, with offerings from their harvest, connected with their history, and then what else do we do on Sukkot? We live in fragile shelters to remember the vulnerability of our ancestors. Our tradition teaches us to invite guests for meals and to provide food on Sukkot for those who are in need. In fact, we're supposed to invite people into our sukkah, or if not, to provide the equivalent amount of the meal we would give them in our sukkah, to provide that food or in a monetary contribution. All of this, in the Sukkot observance throughout the ages and today even, all of this in order to express gratitude, to give thanks, connect with our ancestors who made those first offerings. That's Sukkot, a holiday of gratitude and joy. Then there's Thanksgiving. There's the, shall we say, sacred myth of the pilgrimage and indigenous peoples sitting down harmoniously to share a meal. That story's got some change over time. It's maybe not exactly history, sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but we can still, from that history of our youth on forward, we can extract themes of gratitude and freedom. And some say even that the first Thanksgiving was modeled on Sukkot. Some scholars speak to the knowledge of Hebrew and interest in Hebrew scripture of some of those early Puritans. And while very different holidays, in fact, the themes of Thanksgiving and Sukkot and themes of our people of Judaism have a lot in common. What's interesting is that American Jews over the years, interesting to me, I hope to you, is that American Jews over the years have often explicitly embraced Thanksgiving as a holiday that reflected Jewish values. American Jewish historian, Brandeis professor Jonathan Sarna, explains that 4 holidays were lifted up by American Jews as examples of a synthesis of American and Jewish values. Those holidays, Passover, Thanksgiving, Independence Day, and Hanukkah. Sarna writes, sermons and liturgies for each of these holidays reinforced the message that Judaism and Americanism had common roots. And he explains that a long tradition links the American holiday of Thanksgiving with Jewish themes. As early as 1844, anyone here from Philadelphia? As early as 1844 in Philadelphia, the Chazan at Mikveh Israel in Philadelphia, the oldest congregation in continuous practice, continuous practice, you could say, Isaac Leeser reminded his congregation, and it wasn't a big one, but he said, as 17 Israelites, we have an additional cause of thanksgiving. And he discussed America's special meaning for the Jew. Over the years, additional Jewish Thanksgiving sermons were written. And in 1905, Rabbi Emil G. Hirsch, anyone notice his picture on the wall outside the gathering place? Rabbi Hirsch was the first rabbi of this congregation, the rabbi of Sinai congregation, who would come up here as our congregation was starting. Rabbi Emil G. Hirsch of Chicago Sinai, speaking on the concordance of Judaism and Americanism. So he was talking about Judaism and Americanism on the 250th anniversary of Jews coming to the United States. Rabbi Hirsch's conclusion that Jewish views of liberty and law, of man's inalienable rights and duties, are hallowed by the sublimities of his religion and are in creative concordance with the distinctive principles polarizing Americans. In short, Jewish values and American founding principles come together and are similar. It's good to hear his words. And in 1922 at Temple Israel of Boston, there was a pageant called the America and the Jew, a pageant for Thanksgiving Day, and it was performed by the Sunday school children. It connected the book of Ruth, a story in our Hebrew Bible that is about the harvest, and also the themes of the New World, as we know our country was called. So what does this history tell us? It certainly speaks to our American Jewish forebears wanting to be American and Jewish. They wanted to live in both realms and to solve any tension between these two parts of their identity. That might be hard for some of us to imagine today, particularly those who are several generations away from the immigrant experience. But for early Americans, depending whenever they were, but to fashion for themselves something unified, a unified whole, showing that Judaism and Americanism reinforced one another, this was significant. Today, we don't need to do that. Our American identity is not questioned, and many of us, if not most of us, observe Thanksgiving in some way. And I dare say that many, if not most of us, don't think of Thanksgiving with a Jewish connection. But I invite you to turn a little bit, to look at this American holiday that can have deep meaning for us with Jewish eyes. No, don't make it a Jewish holiday, but ask yourself, how can I bring Jewish traditions, Jewish values, Jewish ritual to deepen the meaning of the fourth Thursday in November? To that end, here are 4 suggestions. And if you're inclined to remember them, you don't have to commit them to memory. We're going to hand out a paper to you as you leave the sanctuary, if you like. 4 suggestions that you might bring to your Thanksgiving dinner, even if you think your relatives might revolt. They're not too complicated. My relatives might revolt, so I can say that to you. First, go around the table. You guys are looking at each other. Who's going to revolt? I don't know. Go around the table. Whether you have a small table or a big table, ask folks to express something that they're grateful for. Anything in their life, small or large. And then together, even if you have people who don't know it, say Shehechianu. Shehechianu says, thanks for bringing us here at this time. So for the people who know it, say or sing the blessing. For those who may not, just tell them what it's about. 2, you can do any or all of these. Make up a prayer. You can do it. We're grateful for being here from this day. We're grateful for having a wonderful meal. We're grateful for health, for family, for freedom. And if you need a prayer, on the sheet you'll get as you leave the sanctuary, I have one there for you, which lifts up these themes of freedom, lifts up our responsibility to others, lifts up our gratitude. 3, here's one. Start dinner with hamotzi. Anyone here already do that? Right? It's not limited to Shabbat, it's to any meal. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Expressing our gratitude for food. And 4, and this you can do before Thanksgiving, give tzedakah. Make a charitable contribution of food, of money, whatever form you'd like to make it in, to somewhere that's going to feed people who are hungry, who are food insecure. You can choose. You could choose Mazon, the Jewish response to hunger, the Greater Chicago Food Depository, the ARC, Ma'od Chitim, Moraine Township Food Pantry, the New Trier Township Food Pantry. There are many. But give tzedakah. Provide food for others. Whether any, all, or none of these are your practices, I encourage you to take even one step this Thanksgiving, even if you're a guest. Even if you're a guest. Even if you're going out to eat. You can do it. And even if you have unruly relatives, mine will undoubtedly groan and say, Mom, Aunt Lisa, really? But you can do it. I will too. Ultimately, Thanksgiving is not a Jewish holiday. but its sentiment of stepping back with gratitude is utterly Jewish. Our tradition instructs us, commands us really to say 100 blessings a day. Think about that. To step back 100 times with gratitude, with mindful appreciation. Our liturgy abounds in brachot, in blessings, those one-line blessings that thank God for things we see. Did you see the moon tonight? That's a great one to bless. You can even just say, Baruch atah Adonai, thank you for the beautiful moon. And we have longer prayers. We've invoked some of them this evening. Torah prescribes rituals of gratitude, offering thanks for the harvest, for plenty, for food. And Torah also reminds us of our responsibility to help others who are in need. These are things we know. They're things we do at other times. We might even do them already on Thanksgiving. If you do something, take it up a notch, and if you don't, add something. Deepen this meaning, this holiday, deepen the meaning for this holiday, deepen the meaning for a meal. Let's do it. Shabbat Shalom.